So, did you attend any of Snuffer's lectures personally?
Yes. Oh my goodness, I was just talking to James about this just yesterday. It was really interesting because we were talking about false humility.
Yes.
And it was so interesting. There's a lot of false humility there with Denver. And so I was telling him the story of how I went to this conference that he was to be speaking at. And he was speaking on the Saturday, but there's all these speakers on the Friday, right? And he's nowhere to be found during, the Friday. And he drives up right as he is supposed to speak, like had it timed so that he drives up. And this is like an outdoor, it was in Moab. I think it was in Moab.
This one?
Yeah, it was a really beautiful location. It was outdoors and they had all these tents set up. So he drives in, gets out, goes right to the podium, speaks, gets in the car, and leaves. And he said it was because he didn't want anybody to build him up and to make him feel like he was, anything but a man. And so these are the days before he would say like, no, I'm not a prophet. But it was soon after this that he started to kind of, say I've had a revelation that I'm supposed to continue what Joseph Smith did. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me when politicians say, oh, I didn't mean that. And it's but it's this worded carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah.
Brad Wilcox recently when his apology, I was misunderstood, or sorry for the misunderstanding.
Yes.
It's like, well, the effect is done. So,
yeah, the effect is done. Yeah, it was interesting.
Man.
So that was his humility, but I was just like, wow, talk about elevating yourself, making yourself seem so important.
What was it like politically in these groups? So one thing I experienced, not being in those groups, but being in groups that would be attracted to that kind of thing, and then kind of this alternate group. We were parallel. I was in a group that even he would attend sometimes.
Yes.
They tended to be very Benson, Constitution, like as if the Cold War never ended kind of thing.
Yes,
John
definitely.
Birch Society.
Oh, yes. Super conservative, just, back to just conservative roots and freedom for America. So, very,
Which isn't
very
all wrong, of course.
No,
I think I would identify as that.
Yes, and I still am. It's very conservative and
politically.
and love America so much.
But that's the irony, right? So you have this kind of Republican politics, but this core, this subjectivism that we often will see so clearly on the political left, and we don't see it on our own side.
On your own side, very good point.
How's that?
Very true. That's very true.
That's why it's been kind of a sticking point for me. But I overdo a point to make a point that can Mormonism, if you throw out 2,000, you throw out all the creeds are an abomination, Western civilization is a mistake, none of them are the true Christians. It seems kind of hard to have any sort of conservatism. So it has to be centered on one man. But once again, is any sort of conservative foundation apart from, Jesus being an exception to this, but it's like one man defines it. That's what we see with the left, right? It's Voltaire or, some thinker that somehow rose above the rest. Darwin, Marx.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Such an interesting, point. That's really good.
I think.
True. I mean, it just shows you there's.
The foundation.
Yes. And
we may vote with them,
corruption
but.
can be in either camp.
The Constitution. It was seen as basically inspired, right?
Oh, yes.
I'm not overdoing this when I bring this up.
No, definitely. Very much seen as inspired and,
and you can read and understand it.
Yeah.
The Bible, who knows? But you can read the word.
Yes.
Even if they're originalists when it comes to the Constitution, they can't be originalists when it comes to the Bible. That'll come through later in your story. But.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good.
There's one dynamic, then we'll get to your resignation.
Yeah.
When you combine an openness to MMP, reincarnation, huge emphasis on personal revelation, and then you have all the pain that comes with broken people trying to be married, you're going to have issues here, right?
Oh, yeah.
I just told you right before I recorded my own, but what did you see that in these groups of people say, oh, I was previously married to this guy, or I'm actually supposed to be married to that guy, and then you have
totally
in the context of this kind of mixed position on polygamy, But is it really adultery if you were married to them in a previous life?
Oh yeah.
Talk about that kind of toxic.
Oh yeah,
milieu.
it was bad, and of course, there was varying degrees. There were some that were definitely like sticking together. Because to be fair, like Denver did say, like if you're married, even if you're a spouse, he said it's biblical to stay with your spouse. Don't leave him if they're not in the movement, and if they, he was quoting Paul that we should just pray for our spouses, and because I think he could see the chaos if everybody was just splitting up, and then you have all these single women that are in poverty because they've left their husband that didn't agree, and so he was very he was clear on that, but it was happening because everybody felt like there was this revelation they were getting, and everything's about revelation now. And so there were some that I knew that their marriage was on the rocks because one of the spouses did not agree with the movement, and so then they started to have like relations with other people within the movement. Yeah, that was definitely going on.
Yeah, and then you just, once again, with that democratic polity, this personal revelation and this authority to do so, you can do it and think, I didn't do anything wrong.
I didn't do anything wrong. God showed me.
They are becoming like Joseph Smith.
Completely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want people to see that. I want people to see that.
Yeah, I think it's important to see that.
Yeah.
It's hugely important.
On one hand, of course, I denounce the whole system.
Yeah.
But I have to tip my hat to at least let's say the restored brand. They're often made fun of, but I actually know a couple of the missionaries in this movement, and they just own the polygamy. Their one of them said he has 2 moms.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the polygamy. It's over the table.
Okay.
Conscious. Yes. Simultaneous.
Okay.
And as evil as that is, it's more honest.
Yes, at least it's honest than the hiding.
Right. So there is a sense in which I even think Brigham Young's polygamy as awful. People are going to mishear me. I'm not saying it's good.
No, it's not good.
What I'm saying there is some sense of transparency that isn't there with Smith.
Exactly.
But if you think it went wrong with Brigham, then with Smith
what was that?
Yeah, polyandry. It becomes very, let's say free love hippie that your grandma was trying to avoid.
Isn't that interesting how it's scary. Just is all there? There's nothing new under the sun, right? The Bible says that all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, the enemy knows. He's like, he's expert.
Right. And even with Denver, what's he going to do? Quote Genesis 2 at the people that aren't doing it?
Right.
It's really...
That's right.
It's... it's pretty scary.
It is really scary. It is really scary. And I think that leads right into my poor husband, James, and he's seeing this, and he's a very logical guy, and he can see where it's going, and he's like, okay, this is going to be a disaster, and this is where God truly stepped in, and so we were on a hike with, and he tells us in his story, so I'll just give very brief, but we were on a hike, just trying to keep our family together, about 45 minutes from our house, and we meet this Christian couple, and we live in Gilbert, Arizona at this time. And it's really sad. We're 42 at this time, and we had never known a single Christian in our lives. And so we're at this little, park, right at the end of the hike. And we start talking to this couple, and they were so open about sharing their faith. And the husband, he was from Nepal and used to be Hindu. And he very briefly gives a little sense that he became Christian, and the wife was a missionary kid of a family that used to be lived 30 years in Austria as a missionary family, just driving a T-bus in Austria. Wow. Wherever the Holy Spirit led, they would stop the bus and serve coffee and tea and preach the gospel. I mean, it's so amazing. So they share this, and in my hungry state of wanting to know more and more, whatever I could get my hands on, it didn't have to just be Denver. I really was just wanting more. And so I connected with her, and I'm like, I really want to know more about your childhood and what you believe. And it turns out they live around the corner from us in our same neighborhood. So we become friends. And James kind of shares in his podcast that they showed us the Joseph Smith versus the Bible, documentary. Oh my gosh, that killed me. Like watching that, I was crying for 3 days. It was so clear, but I couldn't accept it. So I was fasting and praying, trying to figure this out, asking God, I just want your truth at all costs, but I wasn't ready for it. And God knew that. So I found a way to shelf it somehow and to explain it. I can't even remember how I justified it.
Maybe progressive revelation.
Yes.
Joseph knew more than Isaiah did.
Exactly. That's kind of how I started to do it. And so I told my friend, no, I'm very strongly rooted in my faith, and no, I'm gonna, I don't really want to talk about that anymore. But she was awesome. She would we would go on walks together, and she never pushed, but she would allow me to ask questions, and she would share miracles that were happening in her church all the time, like just healing miracles, and they were part of a charismatic church, and there was amazing miracles happening, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this, I've never heard of this, in Mormonism. Very few stories other than, always like, oh, somebody had the surgery and they were healed, but always medical intervention, but nothing like what she was sharing, like actual stage 4 cancer, like healed overnight and, things like that. It was really amazing. So that intrigued me. So I continued to be friends with her. And as James and I, as you can see from this interview, poor James, he's going, our marriage is like, this is crazy. I don't know what's going to happen to my family. And so she suggests 2 counselors, and James shares how he got kind of tricked into going to her pastor. And I thought he was the better choice because we can't go to Mormon, like counseling. So we go, and I get there first. And so I think, okay, I'm going to get him on my side. I'm going to share everything. And because at the time, James was holding on to Mormonism tighter than ever, which was so confusing to me.
Just kind of a retrenchment when he sees where you're going.
Yeah, where he sees where I'm going. It's crazier than Mormonism, and that's all he knows. So he's like, I've got to hold on to this. And
tourniquet.
So I think, okay, this pastor's going to be impressed with me. I know that the Mormonism's off. But so I share the whole story. James comes in, he gives his account, and then the pastor, looks to me, he's like, I'm glad you're searching for truth, but you're off. He was really a matter of fact, And then that's where he just really tells James, do you believe in relativism? And James like, I want to say yes, but I just can't. Logically, I can't, because all these views contradict one another. And so he says, no, I believe in absolute truth. And so the pastor, tells him, then you need to go find it. And so, at that point, he had already started feeling led to read the New Testament. And it's funny because I remember he was sitting at the table, and I keep seeing him reading the New Testament. And in this movement, and talking to my friends, they're like, oh yeah, more than ever, it's being talked about how the Bible is just, it's all mistranslated.
Right. In the Remnant.
In the Remnant.
Right.
Yeah, they're talking about it more than ever. So
yeah, in fact, I've heard Denver's cite, Bart Ehrman and Margaret Barker as authorities.
Yes, he loved Margaret Barker.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I heard him talk about her a lot.
I got to meet her twice.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh,
I met her twice. I got to ask her questions in the living room.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's insane.
Oh, that is insane.
Looking back, I have a little bit of email correspondence with her.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but of course, those two, once again, to show this. So here's this kind of going back to the roots movement, and they're more skeptical of the Bible than at least the current LDS narrative that you get recently with like M. Russell Ballard's conference talk or something like that.
Yes.
So I just want people to catch that.
Yes, exactly. And so James is like reading at the kitchen table, and I remember telling him, aren't you afraid that maybe it's the enemy that is trying to get you to read the Bible instead of the Book of Mormon?
Interesting.
And I always remember his answer, and I had to really like laugh at myself because he's like, wow, the devil's really off his game if he's trying to get me to read the Bible. So I'm like, okay, you're right. And so that was just one of those moments. But so what was interesting at that point, James has his experience of coming to know Jesus, and he receives Jesus. And I'm madder than ever because I'm just thinking, I thought he was going to join me in this movement. I was so sure of it.
Yeah. And you're thinking you're following
I think I'm
Jesus.
following Jesus, yes. And because I'm having, these experiences, which now I look back and I just think of some of these experiences that I know that I was deceived. Like there was many moments where I can look back. I know there was some common grace, where moments where God was meeting me, but it was mixed with error for sure. And it was mixed with demonic like revelations that were, that like I was sharing with you, and I think I put it in my book about how James was going on. He was doing this excursion, to the Grand Canyon, and was taking our boys. I was really nervous because they were so little, but I felt like he was gonna die, like on that trip, and I'm ashamed to say now, like it was so hard with him. Like our marriage was truly falling apart, and I felt so angry, and he felt so angry, and we were just fighting all the time that I hated him. And it's so, I mean, I've repented, of course, many, many times, but at the time I was, so I felt like something was going to happen and he was going to die, but he came back. So,
you thought you had it revealed to you.
I thought I had it very much revealed that he would die on this trip, and he didn't. Yeah. And so then I had to really I remember being very angry and thinking, wow, I was deceived. But I still continued to stay in this movement, right? I just thought, wow, that was just me, maybe because we're so angry at each other. Because in Mormonism, they don't really distinguish between voices. They don't. No. They make you think that whatever you're hearing is God, and so that's what I thought. Right. And so I had never heard until I became Christian that there's the voice of the enemy and your own desires and voice, and those around you, and then there is God too. Sure. So discerning that,
Yeah, I think the only litmus test I've seen from them more recently, just going through the curriculum last year, was if it agrees with them.
Yeah.
But once you question that, and you're dealing with a Smith family that's as much into astrology and magic as anything biblical.
Yes.
Well, that's a wide range of things that could be speaking to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everything from horoscopes to...
Yes. Everything was like fair game.
So that's, I wanted to bring that out just because, once it's like, it doesn't matter if it agrees with Monson.
Yeah.
Well, then where does it matter? Yeah. And with someone like Smith, it can go into witchcraft anywhere but Nicene Trinitarian. Orthodox Christianity.
Exactly. So it's a very good point. It's so true.
Wow. Thank you for being vulnerable with us here too, because I mean that is it ties into the previous point. I mean like some of the worst behavior of my life came influenced in this type of group. And it's hard looking back on.
It is. Yeah, but it's very humbling when you look back. But you know what? I needed it. And it's funny because James, in his podcast or in his episode with you, shared how there's two types of Mormon. And he said, Jolene will tell you, and I will, like that I was, there's those that are just very bogged down by just feeling like they're just never good enough to just reach that carrot on the stick. But there's those that are so blinded to their own sin that are really good at checking the boxes that think that they've got it made. Yep. And that was me. Like I thought I was so holier than thou. I was so good at reading my scriptures and doing the canning and going to the temple and I just thought that I was so good. And so it is really like humbling, to realize no, I'm as full of sin as everybody else.
Yeah. And the heart is deceitful and wicked above all things. Who can know it?
Exactly. That was huge, that scripture to me as I came out.
I mean, every single one of these sins that we were part of and still are there. it's Genesis 3 playing out over and over and over again. And that looking within experiential component of Mormonism heightens both of those, both types of LDS. Both types of Mormons, really, more generally.
It's so true.
So you, at what point you decide to resign? Why?
Yeah. So what happened is that there was somebody that was very close to me, that basically betrayed me. They decided that it was more important than, instead of talking to me about it, that they go to their bishop to tell about what was going on, and then who went to his state president about it. And so then a witch hunt ensued in our area, and they started to go after everybody.
This is in Arizona?
In Gilbert, Arizona. And so I knew it was a matter of time that I was going to be called in to be excommunicated. And because James and I were not on the same page, I wasn't ready to stand and be like, okay, I'm excommunicated for this. But there were many that were giving, there was, and I share about this, one of my very good friends, that her son was on a mission to Russia. And this was a very devout couple that loved their son. They would wait every night, or not every night, but every time they knew he was on his P day and was going to be writing. And so they would wait all night until they saw that he was emailing him. So they'd have a chance, because it's back when you couldn't call, other than 2 times a year when you're on a mission. They'd have a few moments to communicate back and forth. So very, very strong family. They loved their son. Well, as they were kind of hunted down because they had more influence, and it actually was the director of the school. And so they were afraid that they were influencing all these kids at the school. They pretty much within a matter of a few months, all their kids that were paying tuition and everything were gone. So they lost everything. But they went and told his mission president not to allow him to come home to the parents, and so they convinced him he needed to just come home and just live with his sister. And so
this isn't really ancient history,
sad.
Folks. This is 10 years ago.
This was 9 years ago. It's just so sad.
They don't go to the parents.
No. Yeah.
They go to the mission president using priesthood authority. Remember, all along the way, the priesthood authority all along. To say, avoid your parents. Yeah,
avoid your parents who are paying for you to be on this mission.
Who are more loyal to Joseph Smith than these leaders are.
Exactly. Yes. And so, they were heartbroken. It was so sad. It's horrible. So that was what was going on. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to resign. And to be fair, our bishop was actually a really sweet guy. He wasn't mean to me. Sure. Of course, he tried to talk me out of it. And it was him and the stake president, and they're just telling me, you're giving up all your temple covenants. And I'm like, I have not broken a single covenant that I made in the temple. And I'm like, I just don't believe that this is true anymore. And it's interesting. I handed him the letter, and I knew James was just seething mad right next to me. And I just remember feeling such joy, though, to be out, even though I was still in air. I just felt free to be, to be out of this organization. And still I was in the craziness, but that just added fuel to the fire. So, cause James is like, okay, now it's out in the open. Jolene has left the church. And so, he didn't know what he was, he's an attorney with, he had taken over his dad's practice. And so a lot of his clients were LDS, and it was just it was a crazy time. Wow. So it was just worse than ever. And
the second coming is happening any day.
Yes. And I'm constantly telling him the second coming is coming. Don't you feel guilt that we're going to die, especially if we're still here? And I'm trying to convince him to go to Idaho with these people. Yeah. I know. It was really bad. So as we, go and meet with this pastor, the pastor, exhorts him to find truth. And so he does start to really seek God. And I mean, I think that's why God was so kind. It's him and his prayers, and even me with an error. Like really, I really did earnestly want to know truth, and I was willing to hear whatever it was. It was just, I was so blinded though that it was hard to see. So James comes to know Jesus, and still 2 years later, I still had not come to know Jesus. But God starts to put people in my life. Really amazing. So in these home groups that we're meeting with these, other remnant people, there's something that's very normal when you come out of Mormonism. You have to go through a period of mourning, of venting, and anger. Like I don't think you have to, but it's the normal way. It's you have to.
It's going to come out.
It's going to come out.
You can choose to go through it now, or it's going to come out on its own later.
So true. It's going to come out later because you
get to choose when. You don't get to choose if.
That's exactly right. And so these groups, they were just becoming, we had been in it for a while, Rinsley and I, but we started to kind of get bored with all the venting. We had heard it all, and we had gone to visit, Two Rivers. Now it's interesting. I was after, James shares, after a little bit of the marriage counseling with the pastor, I started to be very angry with the pastor because he felt like our problems were rooted in our, the religious issues, but there was a lot of underlying issues that needed to be dealt with. And I wasn't ready to hear like the what I would consider anti-Mormon back then. So I'm like, I'm not meeting with him anymore. God is my counselor. And so, but that was actually a really sweet, beautiful time. God was so faithful to me because James and I would have a fight, and I felt like God was the one that told me he was going to be my counselor. And I do believe that was one of those moments that it was a God moment. And so every time we would argue and fight, I would head to like my little prayer closet room, and I would just cry out to God. And I felt so many amazing moments of him not telling me that James was wrong, actually really chastising me.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was really interesting. That's why I know it was him.
Right.
But it was so beautiful and gentle. I didn't feel shame or guilt. Sure. I just felt like I was given eyes to see what I was doing wrong. Yeah. And so then I'd go and apologize to James. And it was a lot of that for a long time. And then in that process, as we're getting, we go to Two Rivers to visit one day. And this is kind of an interesting experience. So, we walk in and everybody's got their hands raised, and it's got, the more contemporary Christian music. And this is so different. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. I'm like, God, I don't know if I should be here. I'm praying this in my head. Is this okay? And I feel like I actually get a really strong impression that I hear God say, you don't know me. Well, I thought I knew him really well, especially now after being part of this remnant group, And so I'm like, what was that? That was the enemy. I'm thinking that's the enemy. So I just put it aside. And then, but as the service goes on and they're continuing to worship, I feel like I hear again, these people really love me. And I'm like, what? So I don't share that with James because I'm like, okay, this is probably the enemy. I don't know what this is. So I shelf it. And then so Rinsley and I, as we're getting bored in these groups, we're like, you know what? Let's check out some Christian churches. And so we started to go visit different Christian churches. And one that we found that met on Friday nights so that we could still go to our group meetings on Sunday was a Messianic Messianic congregation. Gotcha. Yeah. And the first night we went, there was a rabbi that had become Christian that came out of Russia, and then he lived in Israel, so that he was a guest speaker.
Wow.
It was amazing.
So his family must have been Holocaust impacted.
Yes, totally.
I don't know if that's the right term.
Yes, but I think so. And then he came and he shared a story, how his dad always told him that the New Testament was just a Bible on how to kill Jews and all this stuff. So he's sharing this, and I was really touched by his story. And I start to realize, okay, you know how in Mormonism they always teach you that in the end times that the Jews will all recognize that is the true gospel and they're going to convert. And I'm realizing, no, that's not happening. I'm realizing, the error in Mormonism, and just so that was kind of a little thing in my mind. And I was so just touched by his testimony that we decided to come the next day because they said, oh, we have like Bible study the next day. So we both go, Rinsley and I, and this amazing woman was the teacher that day, and she was actually a substitute, but she had several doctorate degrees in theology and very knowledgeable about the Hebrew context of the Bible. And so she was teaching on Abraham and the Isaac story of this, Abraham's was supposed to sacrifice Isaac. And so the way she taught it, I had never heard it in Mormonism.
So it's like the combination of intellectual and heart.
Yes.
Did you bring up like the resurrection?
Yes,
point? Wow.
Exactly. And how this was God's, like how he was showing like what was to happen to his own son, to Jesus. I had never heard that connection before. And it just, oh my gosh, it woke up my heart in an amazing way.
Oh yeah. And it was supposed to be a lamb that was sacrificed. They sacrificed a ram, so they're looking for a lamb to come.
Yes, exactly.
And then all of a sudden, John the Baptist, behold, the Lamb of God. Is this?
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah.
No. It was powerful. It was so powerful. So after the Bible study, Rinsley and I linger and we follow her to her car. And we're like, I'm in the habit of following people to their car. That's what I did with Amy, our friend, on the mountain. But so we go to the car and she's and I tell her, I'm on a journey coming out of Mormonism, and we'd really love to do a Bible study with you. Is there any way that we could do that? And her husband had passed away about 4 years prior. And so he had, because it was an extensive illness, she was in a mess of taxes. And so she starts to share that, I'm sorry, I just can't. I've got to get through these taxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a CPA. I'm like, I will help you. And so this friendship forms, and Rinsley and I start to go to her house a couple times a week and help her. I'm helping her with their taxes, but I'm asking questions the whole time. And she's wise enough to know she gets very quickly that I'm still believing in some of this Mormon stuff. I gave her a Book of Mormon and which she actually shared with me after that she really did not like taking it. She didn't want it in her house. Wow. But she took it. And
you say, hey,
she thought
these are white Jews that were here in America, right?
Yes, exactly.
She didn't buy it.
She didn't buy it. She didn't buy it. But she was how to say, tactful. So Rinsley and I start coming, and Rinsley helps her organizing because she had recently moved from Florida, and so Rinsley's helping her organize her library, which she had an amazing collection of books. And so in this process, I'm asking her many questions like that are coming up in my mind and that James and I are arguing about, and she's bringing clarity in a way that I can listen. Because with James, I couldn't listen because it was there was so much there, and it often ended up in fighting, and there was just too much emotion, right? So, but with her, I could ask her questions, and I could hear in a way I could hear it, and I think also there's something to what Paul says in the Bible, about the older women teaching the younger women. Definitely, I think a lot of times that's just the fact. I mean, I was really egalitarian for a long time, but now I really can see that really it does need to be, I think men and women can learn from men, but I think typically, not always, but it is much easier for men to learn from men, and I think for women to even learn from women and stuff, because
and hand down the faith.
Yes, exactly. It's a beautiful system. It's not about who's better or not. Right. It's just the way God made it, So she would answer these questions, some very key questions. And there was one day where we were all in the library, and Rinsley's, we're organizing the books, and I find Kingdom of the Cults is in there. And so I pull out that book. I'm like, wow, this sounds interesting. And she's like, oh yeah, that's an interesting chapter in there on Mormonism. And I was like, what? I'm like, Mormonism's not a cult. And she says, oh, well, you guys do believe you can become gods. And I was like, well, we can. So I was so convinced. That was still there. It was still there. And so I'm like, I'm going to prove it to you. So I go home, and you know how in Mormonism, we do the eisegesis thing. And for the listeners that may not understand, so eisegesis is when you impose your preconceived ideas or thoughts that you've been taught into a text to make it work, to make it fit your doctrine, versus exegesis, where you pull out the meaning and you see it for what it says. So I was doing that. I was doing the eisegesis thing, where I was just finding the verses that fit what I wanted out of context, and I start to write the email. And I very clearly feel like I hear God say, don't write it. It's not true. And I just started to cry. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. So God was peeling me like an onion is a good way to describe it. And I went. So
this email was to
my friend.
To your friend to say, yes, we can become gods. Exactly. That's in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. It's in the Bible.
And in the process of doing this.
Yes. Holy Spirit breaks in.
Yeah. There's this moment of, these don't really mean.
Yeah.
What I think they should mean.
Yes, exactly. And what came to my, like right after that thought, was the realization that who was the one that said that in the Bible? Who said we could become as gods? It was Satan. So that was just like, oh my gosh, that was said by Satan, the liar from
and Isaiah, the one who sought to exalt himself.
Yes.
That's a negative. That's not, I'm going to exalt myself.
Exactly. And he's the liar from, of all liars from the beginning of time. And so that realization comes to my mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm crying. I go to my prayer room and James notices that I'm crying in there and he comes and sits with me. And I'm like, so I share with him this realization that I just had. Okay. And in that moment, I realized, okay, we can't become gods. And I actually realized what James had been trying to tell me all along, that God was one being, not three separate beings of flesh and blood, but one being, Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God, but three separate equal persons. But I couldn't get it because, in Mormonism, like you always say, well, how could that be? Because Jesus always goes off and prays to the Father.
Right.
I could not grasp that concept. It was so confusing to me. But in that moment, it cleared up. Like God cleared it up.
Yeah, there's this moment. One thing that I realized, when I asked about the Trinity to my grandma, who knew doctrine, was an LDS of a generation that cared about the doctrine.
Yes.
She takes me to the baptism.
Yeah.
Says, well, clearly three separate gods.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The voice of the Father, the Son being baptized, the Spirit descending like a dove.
Yes.
Right? Then when I realized that there are some expressions of Christianity that literally call that event the theophany, the revelation of the Trinity.
Yeah.
Because they're assuming the very thing that Mormonism denies.
Yes.
That they are the one God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see that?
Yes,
it's the first scene in the Bible where the three persons that have been eternally communing.
Yes. So beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
Are revealed to the world in history. Mm-hmm. So it's once again, it's without that monotheism, you don't have the tool to deal with, why do Christians for so long read Jesus praying to the Father, maintain their monotheism, and confess Jesus as God?
Yes.
Well, if you have the Trinity, you can make sense of that. Exactly. If you deny the Trinity, you can't.
No.
And you end up looking like the polytheism that's condemned throughout the Bible.
Yes, exactly. Condemned completely. Oh, yes. So good.
What did the monotheism issue ever come up? I forgot her name, but anyway, your friend.
Yes, my friend.
Where it's like look at Deuteronomy, look at Isaiah, there's only one God.
It didn't come up too much, because she was like really good about waiting till I asked the questions.
Gotcha.
And so she wasn't, but I do remember there was one time where in our Remnant group, there was a lot of conversation going on about the new covenant. It was really interesting because Joseph Smith, and I didn't realize this, had said that the new covenant had not yet been revealed. Apparently, that's what Denver was saying. So I was so confused. I'm like, wait, what? What's the new covenant? And so I was asking James, and he said, well, it's when Jesus came, and when he died, he gave us new hearts through the Holy Spirit. If we receive him, that's the new covenant. But I couldn't, like, I felt like that was incomplete. And James was a very new believer. He would describe it much better now. And then I did go to my friend, and she just brought that out in such a beautiful way. I just couldn't help but start to cry. That it was how God came and ordained his son to come and die for us on the cross. And the cross was like, I remember her saying, was like his engagement to his people. It was like the engagement ring. And then when he gave the gift of the Holy Spirit and left us with that it was all of that together. It was the marriage of his people with Jesus. I never heard this concept at all, ever. It was so foreign. And to hear her say this, oh my gosh, like that just touched my heart, and I just couldn't help but start crying.
Powerful.
And so it was really powerful.
And that would reframe your view of the second coming too, because it's called the wedding banquet of the Lamb.
Yes, the wedding banquet of the Lamb.
And this draws on the marriage tradition as they understood it in a real historical context, different from our own, rather than just a Book of Mormon that's exactly the context of Joseph Smith's day.
Yes, exactly.
You would go and basically be engaged, but that was basically a form of the marriage.
Yes.
You would go prepare a place.
Yes.
Then you'd come back and pick them up and take them to it.
Yes, exactly.
And so what do you have? Just even the Gospel of John, right?
Yes.
Right. You start with the wedding imagery.
The imagery.
Where he turns water into wine.
Yes.
And then what does he say? I go to prepare a place for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to go, and then the down payment on that is the third person, the Holy Spirit, God, the Holy Spirit. So it's
it's that gift.
Yes, so it's all of a sudden these pieces are starting to
fit together.
Right.
Exactly. And she did, in that moment, she did share more, and she continued, pieces here and there to fit together about that, how the Jewish wedding, how it was, and how this betrothal, he'd go away, just exactly how you're describing. Yeah. And so that just made so much sense. And so I'm starting to realize, okay, well, but then I'm looking at the Book of Mormon. So I still find a way to shelf this poor James, the roller coaster I put him through. And so then I'm seeing in Alma 11, though, okay, well, this kind of sounds like the Trinity, though now knowing what I do, it's a heresy, modalism.
Of the Trinity.
Of the Trinity, but it's getting there.
I think he's trying to sound Trinity.
Trying. And so
for the customers that he hopes will buy the book.
Exactly. And so I just put it I just kind of explained it away by, well, maybe he was getting too proud, Joseph Smith, and maybe in time he was just getting a little crazier. But maybe when he wrote the Book of Mormon, he was still more aligned with God. And so I still shelved it.
Interesting.
And no, it's the blinders are so heavy. Oh, it's crazy. No,
I hear you where, you kind of, maybe you gain a step, you fall back 2, you gain 3 steps, fall back 1.
Exactly. That's what James how he described it back then. Yeah. It's so frustrating for him. Yep. But in the meantime, Rinsley and I continue to have fun going to Christian churches. And every time we go to a new one, we're feeling so much joy. It was just so fun. It was just we'd almost play a game. Okay, where is God going to lead us this time? But I wouldn't go to Two Rivers where the pastor was that I was upset at. So I felt like God was saying, don't go there. But that was obviously the enemy. Anyway, then, so in that time period, I start to work again for the CPA firm that I used to when I first came out of college. And there's a company retreat. And I decide I'm going to, so James actually had a men's retreat for Two Rivers. And so he was headed off to this men's retreat. And we were going to be kind of passing. So I was with the kids, and then he was coming home when I was leaving for the work retreat. And in that time, I was like, oh my gosh, I have this hotel room to myself. I'm really going to press into God. This is going to be great. But on the way home, James texts me from his men's retreat, hey, Jolene, I'm actually a little bit injured. And so, but I'm okay. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And things had been actually, as God's healing me, it's been getting better. We're still arguing, but not as often. So I can kind of see maybe our marriage is going to survive, at least until the boys graduate. I'm just thinking, God, just get us to that point, which I should say, like in the moment, there was a time where it was so bad. I actually said, James, 1 week. And if things don't get better, I can't do this. I'm not saying I'm going to divorce you. I'm just saying we just need to be separated. And so, because I didn't believe in divorce, gratefully for that. I mean, gratefully Denver Suffer was not advocating for that. And so I just thought, but I just can't do this anymore. And so, but it was so interesting that happened in that week. And God was just so faithful. James didn't do anything different. He didn't change. And I mean, and not to like, James he's just not a very communicative guy. And as you know, just, I'm very much more expressive. And so I wanted to see that from him. There was just different marital struggles that we had, just lack of, just that relational stuff.
Cohesion.
Yeah, cohesion. It was just, so I remember like just really crying to God and just like, I can't do this. And I felt like he said, you're going to see a marriage that I cannot even, I can't remember his exact words, but the sense was that I was going to see a marriage in James and I that was amazing and that I would never be able to even imagine at this point. And I thought, oh God, I don't know. I think that's you telling me that because I can't even imagine that at this point. And so I'm like, but I believe you. I was trying to be like Abraham, okay, I believe what you're saying. And so, but at this point I was like, that had happened, but it just continued to get bad for a bit. And, but in this week where I said, this is it, this is the week. If things don't get better, I'm gone. I saw 3 different things happen. And it wasn't like God did this like amazing miracle, but James actually, he like came at me in a way that I just the same, just kind of condescending. And it was just the same old thing. But God did something in me in that week where I wasn't offended. Like somehow I could deal with it. And then he was at the kitchen table and I heard him singing. I never hear, James does not sing out loud. And that was part of my complaint is like, you're just never happy. And all of a sudden I see him singing. And then there was one other thing. I can't even remember what it was right now. But what I saw was that God said, I'm not going to like, what you want is for me to change James. And it's not that he wasn't already transforming James, but I'm going to show you that I'm enough. That I'm enough for you. And so that is what he started to do. And so that's why things were getting better. And James started to lay off trying to convince me so much. He started, because he just started to allow God to do it and kind of have peace in it. And that was amazing to give me that space. And so we're back to the retreat. Sorry for the little detour. I had to explain that. Yeah. So then we, he sends me this text that he's injured. And James, he never complains. Like he could be so hurt. He won't share. And so I like a little bit of time goes by and I'm like, you're injured? How are you injured? I start to realize something. What's up? And he's like, well, I was playing football. And James is actually a tennis player. He doesn't play football. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you were playing football. And I guess he dove over some guys and did something to his ribs. So he's like, I think I just separated some ribs. I'll be fine. So I'm like, okay. So I still go to the retreat. And I have a wonderful time just in my hotel room alone without kids or anybody, just reading the scriptures. And at this time, my friend, the minister friend, she had encouraged me. And I should say too, there was a moment where she asked me, can I pray for you and Rinsley that if there's any deception going on, that it'll come off of you? And I, yeah, definitely. If there is any, I want it gone. And so she prayed and I was like in agreement, but Rinsley starts crying, like just uncontrollably. She's like, Mom, it's not true. It's not true. She already, like God had kind of revealed it to Rinsley. I guess she had less blindness. But I was like, we got inside the house after, her praying for us because she had driven us we went to a meeting together at some kind of a Christian church meeting. It was fun. And then I convinced Rinsley again, no, Rinsley, look, it is true. We know it's true. So Rinsley was just like my buddy at the time. And I think she just, okay, I'm just going to stay with my mom in this. So she kind of continued to be in it with me. But that was a powerful prayer. It was amazing. amazing. It's just the power of prayer. And this woman, I should share, like some of the miracles she would share in her life. Oh my goodness, that God had done. We're also a part of this peeling like an onion. But anyway, I'm at the retreat. I'm just praying and having a wonderful time in my hotel room. The next morning, I decide I'm going to wake up with the sun, and so I wake up and just kind of watch the sun go up and just praying. And then I start to go through my emails before I head off to the work retreat, and there's an email in there from my friend who was the director of the school, who was still very strong in the Denver Snuffer movement. And she says, so Denver Snuffer's recent blog says that he had Joseph Smith appear to him. And at that moment, I got a pit in my stomach. And that had never happened before. So I'm like,
instead of excitement,
I was like, what? Like, what? Why am I feeling that, God? So I started kind of pressing in. And then I remember a conversation that happened with my friend, the minister friend, and where I had asked her, she would kind of, on occasion, share a story from the time she was married with her husband, and she would get teary-eyed and miss her husband. So I would say, do you wish that your husband would just come and do something, like kind of appear to you in a way, maybe flicker a light, just so you know he's there? And she said, absolutely not. She was very strong about it. Absolutely not. The Bible strictly forbids speaking to the dead. She said, because it leaves room for deception. And I was like, oh, I just let it go. Nothing clicked in that moment. But in that hotel room, when I read this email, I was like, I remembered that conversation. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. So I texted my friend really fast, like, where does it say in the Bible you're not supposed to speak to the dead? And she sends me all these scriptures. And and I was like, oh my gosh. None of it is true. That was the moment I was ready. Like at that moment, and the joy that filled my heart just to realize now I know for sure that Mormonism is not true in any way, because the very beginnings of it was Joseph Smith having Angel Moroni, who really, if the Book of Mormon had been true, was a dead prophet from the Book of Mormon, come and appear to him as an angel to reveal the most important truth that he said ever happened since Jesus, right? The restoration of the gospel, that God would never break his own commandment to reveal this most important truth. Like, nobody would have, like, the Jews would never have received that, I'm like, so many things came clear in that moment. And then I start thinking about the keys that were all lost and revealed to Joseph Smith through Peter, James, and John the Baptist. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was all based on
necromancy.
Necromancy. And so it all just came crumbling down. But this joy filled my heart. Now I knew, and I never would question ever again. Yep. And
that was based on, God's work.
Yeah.
But in terms of the truth content,
yes, the
Scripture.
Bible, Scripture. She sent me so many scriptures that showed that we are not supposed to even go there, mess with, speaking to the dead in any way. And I was especially impressed by, the story of King Saul, like going to the medium and speaking to Samuel. And I was like, wow, okay, none of it is true. And I was just ready. And then I remembered the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Like, so there's, in the 1940s, a boy just throwing the rocks into the side of the mountain. He hears a crashing, and there's all these scrolls, very amazingly preserved. And it turns out to be the book of, many of the books of the Old Testament, but the book of Isaiah, one of the most important books, and how it's my friend said anywhere from 95 to 99% accurate. That's incredible. So I started to realize God didn't need to ever break his commandments to reveal something so important, like how simply he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
And all of a sudden these passages start standing out. Right?
Yes.
Not one jot or tittle, my word will never pass away.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Scripture cannot be broken.
Mm-hmm. And that's like all the flood of all the conversations and fights with James where he was like, Jolene, I have clarity on this. And he did quote that so many times about how God was going to preserve his words and all the research he had done to figure out if the Bible could be relied upon. And it all just came back, and it was amazing, like in that moment.
Yeah.
So then like my retreat gets done and I can't wait to get home and tell James what happened.
Injured
James. And so I get a call as the retreat's finishing up from James, and he's like, so I went to the chiropractor because I just thought maybe they were out of place. And he said, and he went to adjust me. He took an x-ray, but went to adjust me. And I almost passed out from the pain. And so then the chiropractor realized he had flipped the x-ray, and he's like, oh, actually, you have 2 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. You better get to the emergency room.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I rush home, rush to the emergency room. It was like 2 hours away or 1.5 hours away because I was in Tucson. And so Rinsley takes James to the emergency room, and we meet there. And just after 2 painful procedures without any anesthesia, they get his lung inflated, but they want to watch him overnight. And so I'm like, at that point, I'm like, okay, I want to tell him, but he's in too much pain. And so I'm like, I told Rinsley, like, hey, can you go home and watch the boys? I'm going to stay with Dad because I don't think he'll complain to the nurses if he's in too much pain. And so I stay the night with him. And in the morning, when things were more calm and he was doing better, I crawled in the bed, carefully beside him. And I'm like, so I have something to tell you. And I relate the whole story of what happened and how I had this huge, realization of that Mormonism was not true, and of Jesus and who he really was. And I mean, the light in that room and the joy in that room, hospital room, is amazing. And it was just that darkness. I really am convinced there's a demonic presence that comes with Mormonism. It just lifted from our home. And never again did we fight in those same ways. There was 6 months of beautiful peace. Definitely then God started the sanctifying process, where that can be a little painful because we both had baggage. but it was never to the same level, and it was all good. We'd get to one baggage that needed to get removed, and we'd get through it, and then it was better after. So
right.
So it was really amazing what God did.
So there's in LDS Church, the celestial eternal marriage was the goal.
Yeah.
And no peace.
Yep. And no peace.
Once you give that up.
Yeah, we both were willing to give up the whole marriage for God, whatever that meant. Yeah.
And recognizing what Jesus taught about marriage, of course, good, but in heaven, but temporary. Good, but temporary.
Yeah. No marriage in heaven.
That the ultimate our marriages at their best point to the marriage that we just talked about.
Yes, with Jesus. Yeah.
And yet that's when it flourished.
Mm-hmm. That's when it flourished. We gave that up.
I want to be sensitive to the listeners where it may not be a happy ending.
Yes, because it's not
some.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
but that doesn't mean we have to can't rejoice in
and
the success here.
Came.
And that flourishing came upon the foundation of biblical truth.
Exactly.
Rather than a material kind of flourishing.
Yeah.
On the foundation of necromancy.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And what I'm always just so grateful for, I'm like, God, thank you. Even though I was so angry and so hurt and felt so betrayed by James, and he felt betrayed by me too, that he wouldn't come alongside me. I am so grateful every day that he chose God first. And so that, made me, it's funny. He says, I gave him freedom to go seek for truth because I was, our marriage, or this whole crazy journey we were on. But he also gave me, freedom to not put my focus on him. And there was a moment where God taught me about idols. And even though I hated James, I realized I had made him and this picture I had of him and this eternal marriage my idol, that he turned my head, and I talk about it in my book, to Jesus and just making him my focus. And that's when he started to, and that's when we really started to see improvement, was when it was Jesus that was filling the hole in my heart.
And by Jesus as he defines himself in his own words.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people would say, well, Jesus does that for me. I could anticipate an LDS saying, well, that is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But can they actually believe what he teaches? Do they can they even believe in the Jesus that existed historically?
Exactly.
It's documented in the Bible.
Yeah. And
that's a different question, right?
It's so true. But his his way, the more the error was being peeled away, the closer I felt Jesus near, his, and I know it was the Holy Spirit just working inside of me and just feeling his love and understanding what he did for us, and how, what I had put on James to be this perfect husband, that became so secondary. It didn't matter anymore. And it was just more okay, Jesus is the one that fills me. And so, James and I are imperfect. We, it's not all, roses all the time and stuff. And it's okay because we both have our eyes on God and Jesus. And together, God has, that promise he made to me that our marriage was going to be something that I would never imagine. It truly is that. And I'm not saying it's perfect. God continues to refine us. But I never could have imagined a marriage like what we have now. It's so amazing.
Just to kind of stick on this point for a minute too. Yeah. If you think, okay, in LDSism, you need the eternal marriage for your own celestial exaltation.
Yeah.
So you are both a means to a further end.
Exactly.
God is not only the way, he's the means.
He's the means.
But for this time, a blessing from God, where you both can care for each other based on what God has done.
Yes.
I hope the listener can see the difference, hear that difference.
That difference is
it's
big.
It's a completely different dynamic as to why marriage matters. And since we have brought up some politics today, we need to remember that.
Yeah.
Because when we're defending marriage or whatever, we got to realize the reasons why matter.
Yeah.
Or we'll fall into the same trap that a lot of people have in making compromises for political ends.
Yeah.
Rather than priority.
Yeah.
Politics matters, but once again, it's
true.
What matters most.
Yeah.
And even where we think we can agree with our LDS neighbors, we can't on this.
No, we cannot on this. It's so true. Yeah, there is no way we could. And it's funny because I've done Facebook posts in the last year or so where I got so much flag, where I posted something very where I didn't think it was offensive. I have conversations with my LDS friends all the time why Christians do not consider Mormonism Christian.
Right.
And so I posted an article written by our pastor who I thought was so kind in the way he laid it out.
Yeah.
The explanation.
Matthew Amati.
Yeah, Matthew Amati.
We've linked to it before. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Matthew Amati's Gospel Coalition article.
Yes,
Fantastic
exactly.
article.
It was a beautiful article.
Yeah, describe it a little bit. And then
he
reaction.
was talking about how he was like he had been hired when he was just a very new pastor to work for the police department, I think it was. And so I have to kind of remind if I get it wrong, help me, because it's been a little while. But and how he was talking to there was an LDS pastor, or not pastor, I'm sorry, LDS guy
police
that was also
chief
police chief or something like that, and he and how he was trying to explain to him how the LDS religion could never be considered Christian. And he did it in such a beautiful, kind way. He just kind of included an analogy in there that was just so well thought out and explained it so well in a way that I did not find offensive at all.
Right. Sorry. He was the head chaplain of the police department of Sandy.
Oh, good. Yes. That sounds right. Yeah.
And he was asked, he wanted all the chaplains to unite together regularly for prayer.
Yes.
And this is his words. By the way, we've had Matt Amati on
had him
on the show before on his book. I'll send you the episode.
Yes, yes, I'll have to find it because I've listened to several of your episodes, quite a few of them, but I didn't catch that one yet. It's
one of my favorites. So it's on his dissertation that became that book.
Okay.
We're going to have him on again. I can't wait.
That'd be great.
But so he says that the head chaplain was a Mormon. He wanted all the chaplains united together regularly for prayer.
Yeah.
When I explained to him that I couldn't do so because we didn't worship the same God, he was shocked I'd say such a thing.
Yeah.
He didn't understand that using the same terms, God the Father, Son of God, Jesus Christ, Holy Ghost, didn't mean we meant the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's how he frames the article.
No, it was beautiful. I thought it was so well laid out, but I got like 100, it was 95 to be exact, comments, so many, so angry about that I could post such a thing and say that they were not Christian. And I'm like, we can't budge on this because it's not even kind and loving to our LDS, family and neighbors. And if we just compromise on that, then it's like we don't care about them and their salvation because it truly is at stake. Right. It matters that you have the right God.
And it should matter to them.
Yeah, it should matter to them.
This is the most bizarre phenomenon.
Yeah.
This is why we do the podcast we do. Like, that's why we call it Distinctive Christianity.
I love it.
We honor that divide, and everything is engaging as deeply as we can on why the difference and why it matters. And why a Mormon won't prioritize those things is beyond me.
It is,
given even what the leaders have said.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's say I was a monotheist, denied that men could become gods, thought the fall was a bad thing, not a good thing, denied the temple, but I claimed Mormon.
Yeah.
I claimed the title Mormon. Yeah. Just because I felt sincere about it.
Yes, exactly. It's completely different religion.
Exactly. Or I call some historical figure in the 800s AD China, Joseph Smith, and say, well, see, the same word, this guy, I love him and his teachings, and I have a fuzzy feeling about it.
Yes.
A burning of the bosom about it.
Uh-huh.
Does that make me Mormon? Or
no way.
These terms mean what they mean.
They do, and that's so true. And I was just having a conversation with somebody just the other day where he's like, I don't get bogged down in those details. And it was the conversation that I was trying to, make the point, like, it does matter who God is and who Jesus is. It matters. And he's like, I don't get bogged down by those details. I'm like, you think that's details? I'm like, that's the most important thing we could ever know is who is he? And that he is the, just the uncreated God outside of time and creation. We could truly worship him and know we are the creature.
Right.
Not him.
Right. If those are details, what is the substance?
That's the thing.
It gets reduced to ethics or politics.
Yes, exactly.
And frankly, those then become battlegrounds where you just start to imitate the enemy you're trying to beat.
Yeah.
I think this is a relevant lesson for today.
I think so
Imitating the very enemy we're trying to beat, because it becomes all about what the kingdom we make rather than receive.
Yes.
The gods we want rather than the God who is.
Yes. Oh,
So
beautifully said. So beautiful.
It's it's amazing. What did with any of these commenters on the platform or not, did any of them recognize the point at least say, well, if by Christianity you mean Trinitarian, then you're right? Or was there any sort of willingness to see the point?
Willingness. Not, at least not in the commenters.
Yeah.
But very often, and it's why I don't shy away from putting stuff on Facebook, because very often there are people that are questioning, and they are in a turmoil, just like we were. And they'll privately message me, and, and then we can have conversations. But no, amongst those that were, trying to make their bold points to stand up for their faith, no, there wasn't any kind of recognition of that. They'll say, because of the Trinity, and then there's all the talk about the Nicene Creed, and they just want to bash that, and they just don't understand. And they're like, how do you have the right to define Christianity? Those kind of comments. And so I'm like, I don't have the right to define Christianity.
And neither do you guys.
Yes, but Jesus did. And 2,000 years of Christian tradition that have decided what the word means.
Sure.
And now you're just trying to steal it.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why on this podcast, when we get there, we're going through why creeds right now, but Pastor Brendan and I are going to go phrase by phrase the Nicene Creed and show its biblical basis.
Oh, I love that.
Because we hear this all the time.
Yes.
I went, Pastor Ed Romine, I don't know if you've had the privilege of meeting him yet. He's a good dude.
Oh,
so at some point,
cool. Yes.
they took me to go evangelize on the street corner in Provo.
Yeah.
1 week.
Yeah.
I think the Nicene Creed came up in every conversation longer than 30 seconds.
I believe it.
So the Christian out there, of course, do your own thinking and research. I think the Nicene Creed is faithful. Yeah. It's not the standard, the scriptures are, but it is a faithful exposition. We should not shy away from this point and own it that, we read the scriptures the way they did. Yeah. And unlike someone who has to claim he, based on magic, dug up some book out of a hill based on his untrustworthy testimony, say this is the real Christianity. Yeah. So it's pretty different.
It's very
historically
different.
as well.
Completely different. Yeah. Yeah. James actually now, like we've been doing it for 3 years. I don't know. Did he share it? I haven't gotten done with the second part, but we've been doing a Bible study in our house. Did he tell? Let me tell about that. Yeah. So it's a 10-week series that James has designed himself to take somebody first to establish the reliability of the Bible. Just with the apologetics. And then after that, it's just going through, because you know how it is when you come out of Mormonism, it's years before you can peel away the lies and replace it with the truth. And for a long time, it's commingled and you're super confused. You're like, is this from Mormonism or is this actual Christian? Yep. It takes so long. A long time. And so he just kind of goes through the whole Bible, through the major covenants and stories to kind of show how Joseph Smith distorted the Bible and the truth. Yeah. And just so it's been amazing to see people come through that and the transformation in them, and then the realization of how messed up Mormonism is as they start to realize, okay, this was, get rid of this stuff is not true, and replace it with the truth. And it's been amazing. And so we do it, like we do one series in the fall and then one in the spring. And so 3 years we've been doing it. It's been awesome. Amazing. And so we're going to start this next time, especially since we're planting a church, we're going to start to allow people to come in by Zoom too. Because, there's a lot that still would like to kind of do it with us, but they're not going to live in St. George. So so that it's great. Awesome. The website, in case anybody's interested, is called askldsquestions.com. And if they reach out to us on there, we'll get back to you and just kind of keep you in the loop as to when it's starting and send you leaks and stay in contact with you.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
That would be great. That'd be great.
In fact, I have mentioned, James, it'd be fun to turn each one of these into an episode if he was willing sometime.
Yes. Yeah, because each one is so
maybe not this year with all the busyness. No, but in the future.
That would be amazing.
If you wanted to document it on a podcast format.
So people could just anywhere listen. I love that. I love that. We love it. Yeah, it's really great. Like I've listened, we've done it. This is our sixth time. We finished the sixth time. I don't get bored. And it's interesting because as James, it depends on who is coming to the Bible study, and a lot of Christians that come actually as well, because in it, especially those that maybe are not, haven't delved into the Bible as much, they are finding stronger faith in their own Christianity and realizing the importance of the Bible as they go through this Bible study with us. Because one thing that James and I have both realized is we need an anchor. And as you and I have talked, I think it's so clear. And this would be my prayer for all LDS people and those in the different hundreds of splinter off groups that are out there, the polygamists and everybody. This whole concept that you can put all your eggs in the basket of I had an experience or a revelation, or that somebody had a revelation. No, you can just, oh my goodness, I think we can see from our stories that if we don't have an anchor, we could be off into who knows where, into really horrible places. And so God provided the Bible. It's his love letter to us, and we can know him as we read it, and it's the living word, and it anchors us to his truth. So when we do think, and there are experiences, and they're beautiful, and it's amazing, amazing. But we can't put everything on those experiences. And we always, just like the Bible says, we have to test the spirits.
Absolutely.
Yep.
J. Gresham Machen is my hero. In fact, he's who I try to model here.
Yeah.
I mean, as not or not that I'll ever attain it. J. Gresham Machen was this incredible professor at Princeton 100 years ago, who, if you haven't had the opportunity,
I haven't. That's his book.
Yeah.
I
will give you a copy.
I'm excited. I will read it. I will read it.
You'll be amazed at every time he's describing liberal. Also respect the book because what he tries to do in it is just show the difference between the major issue, like indulgence.
Yeah.
Whether that was a literal historical thing or a myth poetic thing. And of course, we all know what every form of Mormonism will have the view. Only one way to have a child in Mormonism. But, so he wrote an epic book. It's still the best book ever written, I think, in the history of the church. He makes this point about experience, that all religions have experience.
Yeah.
But only Christianity has Christ.
Yeah.
That distinguishes whether it's authentic Christian experience or not.
Oh, that's good.
So he does such a great job, because you had theologians at the time saying, well, maybe the gospel existential experience of the Christ, but they just redefine.
Yes, so
and so it is key.
Yeah,
if you were to snuffer adjacent,
so interesting.
At the same time, both started waking up around the same time, and we know LDS. Assume some of the people you know best or love most who are listening right now.
Yeah.
Take us through some of those points that you wish they would see. The LDS Jesus.
Oh, yeah. And I think we just even already touched on it a little bit, for them to realize that, actually understand that a detail is just, or inconsequential or irrelevant. We've heard that too, that it's just irrelevant. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Who got it?
We talk to members all the time that, I'm so happy, but they are confused by our happiness. Like, they see James and I and they're like, the one thing that confuses us. But it's because, we're happier than we ever were. Before, it was the whitewashed walls. It was the facade. I was good at keeping that up. But now it's, he is never a detail. I remember there's a part in the Bible, in Samuel, when the Israelites are king. Oh my gosh, when I started to read that again with new eyes, and I had come to know Jesus, I literally cried. I'm like, friend, because LDS people will say all the time, no, we know Jesus. I love Jesus. But I'm like, it's so different. If I can just find him, and you're born again and you really know him, you just cry when you hear that he was rejected in any way. And so that would just, and I would also say to those in Mormonism that maybe one spouse is and is afraid because of that they might lose their family, their forever family, their spouse. I'm like, Specifically, like, I'm so grateful that God did for James and I, but I've talked to many that have lost, their families, and they still will say it was worth it. You don't have anything anyway.
What did Jesus say?
So,
what if you gain the whole world?
Exactly.
And lose your own soul.
Exactly. That's the main. Say, just take the risk and choose Jesus before even your spouse. And yeah.
One point we haven't hit on, a theme in your story.
Yeah.
Grace.
Oh yeah. And
how would you try to help an LDS who's, or what we're saying is grace?
Oh yeah, and it's so interesting because even just in the Denver Snuffer movement, right? They're on one side. Jesus, but they've got this very mixed up idea of grace, and I would just encourage listeners, if you haven't already listened, to because grace is what first got a hold of James. Now, because I was on the arrogant side of Mormonism, and I came to know Jesus. It wasn't actually until like 2 years after I'd been saved, and I still believe I was saved, even in my not recognizing my sin. And then I realized, whoa, I think it's because James, he described to me, we were just having a conversation, and he said, we are full of sin. Paul said that even our good works are as dirty rags. And then he explained to me that that woke me up, that I'm like, really, even my good works are as dirty rags to God? Just really broke down and, began just an even deeper process of repentance, of just realizing my arrogance
or what he had done.
Yes.
Because it wasn't totally clear.
Yeah, it wasn't
that it was
clear. My
100,
sin.
not 99.9%, not 94%.
No.
God. A to Z.
Yes.
100%.
All him.
Zero footnotes. Zero qualifications.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. But you've been raised in a works-based religion for so long, it takes a while for God to kind of really help you understand truly the sacrifice. And so, but I do remember too that James would say, look, Jolene, we work from grace. Like we're not trying to do the good works, to achieve salvation, because we never could. It's all about Jesus and only him. And then our good works flow from that love that we have for him. And truly, I'll say, like, the transformation in both James and I, like when we were Mormon, we never wanted to preach the Mormon gospel, even though we were super in it, and we said we loved it, we lived it, but we're like, no, we're not going to preach the gospel to anybody. And then as soon as we came out, like, it was this joy, we couldn't help it. It was just like, it just flowed out of us. And so it's amazing. It's not, the grace is not of us.
Once again, that's also not a footnote, but it flows from our view of God.
Exactly.
Therefore, our view of the God-man. Therefore, what he has done.
Exactly what he has done.
And this is something that my pastor Jason Wallace does so well. If God is an exalted man, works righteousness makes a lot of sense.
Oh yes.
That on its own terms it makes sense. But he's not.
He's not.
And therefore it's not.
Yeah.
And but I think one way that was helpful for me at this point too, to realize about the Pharisees, we like to caricature them as the worst of the worst.
Oh, yeah.
They were the best of the worst. If he's saying this about the most pious people in his society, the people who care, the people who try, the people who, right?
Oh, yeah, that they had the Torah memorized.
Right.
I mean, amazing.
And Jesus says that about them. That's why he'll say, you need a righteousness that exceeds. That would make sense if these were like the worst of the worst.
Oh, exactly.
Right? They're the best of the worst. And we have to see, man, with their devotion.
Yes.
What does that say about me?
Exactly.
Right? Like even in the parable, the tax collector and the Pharisee, right? He actually goes through a list from Deuteronomy. Those are good things.
Yeah.
They weren't bad things.
Oh, yeah.
But he even acknowledges grace. Yeah. Thank you, God. I'm not like other men. That's grace.
Yes.
But how does he view his own righteousness and what it's doing in his relationship with the triune God?
Yes.
That's the point. And I think...
And I never got that when I was LDS. I never could understand.
In fact, I went the other way.
Oh, yeah.
By the end, I realized, why grace at all?
Yes.
If grace is just to make up the difference, well, could he become a God for me?
Yeah.
It's totally unfair.
Yeah, it's true.
So, frankly, I think the more consistent, deeper Mormon view doesn't acknowledge it at all. It's graceful only insofar as it's an example you follow.
Yes.
Or he reveals knowledge you can apply.
Yeah.
But he's only going to do that to people who deserve it anyway. Yeah. Think of the premortal council.
Exactly.
Why were you born LDS and others weren't?
Yes.
It says in the Gospel Principles Manual today
that
the leaders are the leaders because of their premortal valiance.
Oh, yeah.
Their worthiness.
Oh, totally.
So even the knowledge thing, it's earned. It's just we call grace what we can't.
Yes.
We don't remember because of the veil or something like that.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think it's
it's amazing. Yeah.
And it's
God's love.
Yes.
To do that for us. I'm always amazed. Every morning I wake up and I'm spending time with God. I'm like, oh my gosh, God.
Yeah.
You were so kind to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're
all on death row and he pardons some.
Yeah. It's so amazing.
Yeah. As we're wrapping up here, whatever else you want to say, if there's something else you want to go into, anything else you'd like to say, anything else you'd like to say to people, some in particular, the floor is yours.
I feel like we really did say it all. So I don't think I have anything to add. Thank you. You've been great. I would just ask people, please just read the Bible, with new eyes. Don't impose your disposed ideas and the Mormon filter over it. Please just read it with new eyes. That would be my plea and my prayer for them. Yep. So, but thank you for having me, Skylar.
Thank you so much. And this is another edition of Distinctive Christianity. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.